Hello, happy Sunday. This is going to be my first episode talking to parents. Previous content's been aimed at young males, and I intend to continue doing as much of that as I can. But I think it's also important to talk to the parents. We're always kind of a team. The parents and the kids should be working together to try to get to where we want to go. And that's really what this particular episode is about. Where do we want to go? What's the end point? Not really end point, but what's the destination? What are we trying to do? So everybody says, I want the best for my kids. And everybody says that, but what does that mean? What does it mean to want the best for your kid? What are we envisioning? If I can fast forward 10 years, 15 years down the road, what do I see? And it's very easy to get caught up in circumstances and start thinking, well, my kid's got a good job and making a lot of money and is married and has a kid or is, traveling around the world or whatever kinds of circumstances that might be the kind of things that you would want for your kid. And that's all fine, but it isn't really what I want for my kids. And let me explain what I'm talking about. So any of those things might be great. And I might be very interested in my kids having that. I might be very happy if that's what's going on with them. But that's not the goal of parenting from my perspective. My goal is to make them prepared to live in the world and to succeed in the world. Notice that I didn't say anything about being happy. They will be happy at times, and times they won't. And that's okay. Nobody can be happy all the time. So to say that your goal is happiness is kind of making a mistake. Your goal should really be to be able to be well-adjusted and to be able to succeed to achieve the kinds of things that you want in life. And some of those days are going to be happy days. Some of those days are not. And we'll talk a lot more about that later on. I have boatloads of information to share when it comes to the idea of failure and hardship and adversity and how important that is, because it's super important. Parents need to be aware of that. Kids need to be aware of that. But getting back to what it is that we want, what we want is I want my kids to be able. I want them to be capable. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I want them to be able to do things for themselves and do whatever life requires of them at the moment that they're in. So, implied in that is not so much that they have this laundry list of skills, although that's great and they should have those things. They should be able to do things like they should be able to do their laundry. That's a skill. But it means that they are capable of looking after themselves. They are capable of living independently. So that's a really, really important one, and I've put that very, very high on the list of when I say I want the best for my kid, I want them to be able to live independently, to do for themselves. It's very, very important. The second big thing that I want for them is I want them to be emotionally stable and emotionally resilient. And what that means is I want them to react appropriately to situations that happen, but I don't want them to get completely just on tilt for situations that don't require it. So I want the emotional reactions to everyday life to match what's actually happening. Emotional stability is really all about that, is being able to maintain a sort of equilibrium with how you're doing emotionally and more or less be able to weather hardships and things that are happening without freaking out. So having the ability to be emotionally stable is important, and there's a lot that can and should be done for us as parents to promote that. I want them to be socially mature. So that's a lot of what we're spending time on with the content that's aimed at teenagers is social maturity, developing an understanding of what are we trying to do socially. How does the human animal work? How does the human animal work in a group? And what do we need to watch for? What kinds of things can get us in trouble? And what kinds of things should we be trying to do? We should be trying to build healthy, meaningful relationships. We should stay away from harmful relationships, toxic relationships. We should avoid isolation. We should not try to spend a bunch of time away from other people. And I have a lot to say about that, but again, the goal is I want social maturity. I want my kids to be able to know what's going on in the social environment and to be able to navigate that to achieve their goals, to get what they want out of life. Another big thing is I want them to be growth-minded. And a lot of people maybe kind of take this for granted, but I want you to think about people that you know in your life who are not growth-minded. Everybody knows people like this. These are people who are not introspective in any way. They don't ever look inward and ask, why do I feel the way I feel right now? Is there something that I could be doing differently that would make me feel different? Or are there things that I can be doing that would help me have a better situation going on in my life? There are a lot of people that never, ever think like that. And it's mind-blowing to me because I've been like that forever, and I've always pushed that on everybody that's around me is, what are you doing to better yourself? I ask my kids this all the time. What have you done today to make yourself better, smarter, in better shape, whatever it is? How have you improved yourself? Having a growth mindset is crucially important because it keeps you from getting bored with life. It keeps you from falling into ruts where you can get into harmful behavior, getting into habits that are not good for you. Having a growth mindset, always having something to strive for, something to get better at, will keep you on a good path in life. It's really important. And so teaching our kids to have a growth mindset is super important, okay? And again, when I talk about these goals for kids, I am not talking about I want them to be happy. I can't emphasize this enough. There will be times when they're happy, and I guess I could say that I would rather them be more happy than unhappy. I think that's a reasonable goal to have. But to just say I want them to be happy, I don't think that makes sense. I think that I want them to be, if they're in a situation that calls for them to be sad, I want them to be sad. If they're in a situation that calls for them to feel guilty because they did something shitty, I want them to feel that. I want them to sit with it. I don't want to default to whatever it takes to make you happy, whatever you got to do so that you can get happy again. That does not make any sense. It's not good for kids. And as parents, it's really important for us to teach them this from a very, very young age. So just to summarize, goals for our kids, what do we want for them? This is what we should be striving for as parents. I want them to be able, I want them to be capable. They need to be able to look out for themselves. They need to be able to do for themselves. They need to be able to cook. They need to be able to do laundry. They need to be able to clean. They need to be able to fix things. And this doesn't just apply to males, by the way. I think that every adult should be able to do a lot of these things. Having to call somebody to come and do things for you, to me, it's nice to have friends. It's nice to have people who can and come do those things. But I want you to always try first. What did you do? And I ask my kids this. When they come to me, hey, Dad, I need you to do this for me. I'm like, what did you do? How far did you get when you did it? What resources did you use? So able, capable. Emotional stability is the next one. I want them to be able to weather the storms of life, understand what's going on, and be able to roll with it. Freaking out over every little thing is not useful. It is not the way to live life, and it causes a lot of drama. It causes a lot of people around you to be a little bit kind of like they're going to treat you a little differently because they know that if they say the wrong thing that you're going to get triggered and get all upset, and then that's going to be a big problem for everybody. You don't want to be that, and we don't want our kids to be that. Social maturity follows from that. Understand what's going on in your social life, what's going on around you. Realize that your relationships are the most important thing in your life, period. It's not money. It's not job. It's relationships. Having good relationships makes you rich. Believe me. This is what we need to be telling our children. This is what we need to be focusing on, and this is what we need to be trying to help them with. They need to have that growth mindset. What are you doing to get better every day? What did you do today to make yourself smarter, to make yourself know more, to have more friends, to help out one of the people that you know, to advance some agenda that you have. Growth mindset, super important. All right, so I'm going to leave it there, but the next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be the fact that they need us. A lot of parents, once the kids get to be teenagers and they stop really asking for help, they stop asking for advice, it's very easy to just go, okay, well, my job is done. I just need to feed them. I need to make sure they get where they're supposed to go and make sure they got clothes. And other than that, it's all good. No, they need us. All right, that's it. Till next time. Bye-bye.